Many years ago, long before united Scotland, the land was split between many kings. Even within these kingdoms, the rulership was not central. The kings would grant noble titles to their trusted followers and gift them land to govern as they see fit. These feudal baronies blanketed Scotland, and within them, the knights and lairds ruled the land in the name of the king. Today's tale is about one knight in specific, a man who was respected and admired by the locals for his honour as a statesman and his valour in battle, the knight of the glens, bens and passes. The knight of the glens, bens and passes was said to be a very wealthy man. He ruled over a large patch of land in the west of Scotland and possessed huge herds of cattle, sheep and horses. It was with these animals that the knight had gained his wealth, so it will come as no surprise that the man was very protective over the herds. Each morning, the knight would leave his castle and climb a great hill which stood opposite. From the summit, he could survey all the animals in his possession and ensure their safety. But it happened that on one sunny morning, when the knight of glens, bens and passes reached the summit of the hill, that there were no creatures to be seen. The knight, in pure shock, scanned the surrounding area for some time. How did they disappear with such speed? Where can so many have gone? And in which direction should my search begin? Were all questions that came to the mind of the knight. As he stood there in thought, the knight glanced movement from the foot of the hill. Walking at a leisurely pace up the hill was a large white hound with crimson ears. The knight could tell from just his glance that this was no ordinary being. It seemed to him as if it were a creature of the other world. When the great hound neared the knight, he heard a soft voice ask, "What is the cause of your sadness, knight of the glens, bens and passes?" To the man's surprise, it would seem that the voice was coming from the hound. With some hesitation, he answered, "My sadness is great, for every beast I had in the world is lost, and I know not where they have gone." The hound seemed to pause a minute in thought. It looked towards the knight and said, "If thou give me your daughter's hand in marriage, I will find in return your herd to you." The knight had great need of his animals, but was reluctant to trade one of his beloved daughters. He told the white hound that he would under no circumstances force any of his daughters to marry the creature, but he was willing to take the hound to the castle and ask his daughters if they would be willing to become the hound's bride. So that is exactly what they did. The knight and the white red-eared hound arrived at the castle together, and with all speed the knight sent for his eldest daughter. When she arrived, the knight explained what had happened and asked if she would be willing to marry the hound. The daughter was furious that her father would even dare suggest that she marry this odd beast. Quickly she turned around and returned to the castle with an air of great displeasure. The knight then sent for his middle daughter, but as soon as she heard the tale, this daughter too turned on her heel and left without even entertaining an answer. Finally, the knight sent for his youngest daughter, and upon hearing the tale, she looked quizzically at the hound and then at her father, whom she loved dearly, and said, "Father, I will marry the red-eared white hound, but only on the condition that your property is successfully returned." Without further delay, a grand wedding was hurriedly prepared, and on that very evening, the knight's daughter was married to the white hound. Early the next morning, the knight went upon his daily walk to the hilltop, and to his great relief, he saw that every single beast he had lost was now returned and happily grazing in the pastures. The knight rushed home to tell the family and thank the Hound and his daughter. But as the man reached the castle, he was met by a beautiful young man, who upon seeing the knight fell to his knees and thanked him for aiding in his freedom. The handsome man was, of course, the white, red-eared Hound. He told of how as a young boy he was enchanted by the she, and had only been restored to his true form because the knight's daughter had agreed to marry him of her own free will. This broke the spell upon him. The groom and his new bride stayed with the knight for some time. It was said that they both fell madly in love with each other, and that the older sisters would regret not marrying the Hound themselves once they knew of his true identity. The groom told the knight and his daughter that he himself was the owner of a large castle in the border forest of the knight's land. He told of how he too was of noble blood, but unfortunately his name would have to stay hidden from all but himself and his new wife. The knight and the extended family only ever knew the man as the White Hound. The Hound told his new father-in-law of his desire that he and his new bride should leave the care of the knight to head for the man's home and the land he was destined to rule. With the knight's blessing, the Hound and his young bride left the castle by the hill and headed to the land of the white, red-eared Hound. In that land, the new husband and wife's tale continues, but as for the knight of the glens, bens and passes, this is the last he was mentioned. Much like another tale I covered in the past, the term knight may not be entirely accurate. The original Gaelic text uses the word rider, which is commonly translated to horseman or knight, but can be used simply to confer a level of nobility upon a person. So perhaps Lord or Baron of the glens, bens and passes may be a more accurate title. No one truly knows the real name of the knight, or if he lived at all, but given the style of the text and other similar tales, my personal guess is that he was a nobleman of Dalreta, the ancient Gaelic kingdom of western Scotland. If this were true, perhaps it gives some insight into his title as the Knight of Glens, Bens and Passes, since the Western Highlands is well known for its hills and mountains. One part of this tale I found particularly interesting was the white, red-eared Hound, as from its description and magical nature, it sounds very similar to a creature from Welsh mythology, the Cunanan. These white dogs with crimson ears can be found in the Welsh tales of the Wild Hunt, and are commonly a portent of death. Perhaps this tale merges the Welsh Cunanan with the Scottish fairy dog or Coo-Shee. It was not unheard of for the old tribes of Wales to have dealings with the Gaels and Kingdom of Dalreta. This is of course conjecture, but I found the similarities worth mentioning. Thank you for listening, and as always, a special thank you to my patrons, Slán Java,